This is Talk Anime, episode number 13, going over the day I became a god. It's me, Solo, here, joined with Noob, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience today.
This is the noob.
This is the Noob. Yeah. We're still kind of fighting about how we're going to start and end these things. Any suggestions would be appreciated, or we can just always open with something different and make it random as fuck, because that's just how we do things, right? Right.
Yeah.
But anyways, before we get into the episode, going over the intro and everything, we did want to settle things. If you listened to last episode, it got a little heated towards the end about what we were going to make the final My Anime List score for Saikano. And after long discussion and debate and going onto the Reddit and the voting and the polls that you might have participated in, we have decided on a final score of 7 out of 10, which is a disappointment to both of us. I clearly wanted it to be a 3.
And
Um,
I clearly wanted it to have a 10.
yeah, and
But
Saikano Reddit agrees with him, but the general other people that aren't fucking fanboys, even some of the Saikano Reddit, a lot of them gave it a 7. Like almost over 30 people voted on a 7. So,
well, those people need to be kicked off the Reddit.
and they were even on they're the fans of the show. They're on the Reddit. So, and 30 people agreed, and that's just the average score we're going to go with. So, and we're doing that. Well, here's what we decided, right? We didn't talk about this before, but I did want to give the movie 1 point higher. So the movie I'll say is an 8, and then the show will settle with a 7. Is that fair?
I think that's fair.
And then because I think the movie was a little bit better than the show. Um, But yeah, with that said, let's just get into the intro of The Day I Became a God. So, The Day I Became a God is a 2020 Japanese anime series produced by PA Works and Aniplex. It was directed by Yoshiki Asai. I don't know how to say any names, as you guys may know. It was originally aired just last year, between October to December. It was originally conceived by June. How do you pronounce his last name? Madi. Madai. He also wrote the screenplay. It's based on the visual, or his studio was based on the visual novels, and their brand name is Key. This one doesn't have a visual novel tie-in, at least not yet. Might get one in the future. But he's also the guy who created Angel Beats and Charlotte. So this is his next series. That's why we decided to cover this one, or I decided to cover it because it's kind of his next work, and I wanted to see how it held up comparison to those because we reviewed both of those pretty highly. So I figured this might have the same vibe. A brief summary, though, of the show is Yota Narukami is a student focused only on his college entrance exams. During his last summer break of high school, he is approached by a girl named Hina who says she is a god of omniscience. She tells him that in 30 days the world is going to end. So, with that premise, it seemed interesting enough. So, go ahead and tell me, Noob, what were your overall impressions, thoughts, opinions about the show here?
I personally really love this show. And one thing I will say, I've seen all the reviews all over the internet talking about how this show is either mediocre or somehow it just falls short. And I don't agree with any of that. This show, from beginning to end, it had a very interesting plot. There was parts where, yeah, like the plot wasn't necessarily like going anywhere, but it was still keeping me engaged. So you end up caring quite a bit about just every character and what they're just doing in their everyday lives more than like an overarching plot that has to have some like finite conclusion that just like makes it overall worth it, like watching. I As far as the art style and stuff, I thought, like just like Charlotte and Angel Beats, it was pretty solid. It had some pretty decent like music and stuff too, but it was definitely no Angel Beats in that regard. But overall, I thought it was a great show. I loved the characters. I liked the setting, and particular, I really liked Hina. So that was my overall impressions of the show. What were your thoughts on the show?
Yeah, so I kind of went to the show kind of blind, which I presume you said you were watching it weekly when you originally watched it, right? So you
Yeah.
kind of just watched it with the seasonal rotation, and you didn't even know it was by the same guy that made Angel Beats and Charlotte and all of that.
No, I when you told me about that, that just took me off guard. 'Cause I was like, yeah, I could see a little bit of I guess Angel Beats in there with how it ended and stuff, but I would have not been able to put two and two together if you hadn't have told me that.
Yeah, and it is one of those things. I did know that going in, and I did actually ask like a Reddit post, specifically on the Charlotte Reddit is what I chose to see kind of what those people thought of it, and a lot of them did kind of give me the impression that the show is they might have enjoyed it, but it wasn't as good as like Charlotte or Angel Beats in their opinions, and a lot of them said it fell apart in the second half. But the thing is, as we kind of might compare later on, this show, I mean, you really can tell, like, once you know it's by the same guy, it kind of makes sense because that's kind of his style. I mean, I even saw some really negative reviews on my anime list, people that literally gave this 1 out of 10s that were saying that they're tired of the way he makes his anime and it's the same retired tropes and that everything always falls apart in the second half of his shows. And I'm just thinking to myself, if you really feel that way, I don't know why you're watching his anime in the fucking first
Yeah,
place.
because like
Like
I
you should.
personally love like the way this guy makes anime.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
sure, okay, like, and we're gonna get into it, but basically, my overall impressions, I enjoyed it. I don't know. Well, maybe in the discussion, gather my thoughts. I just watched the entire series today, and maybe we'll gather my thoughts and kind of see where it leads. But I definitely would recommend it if someone hasn't seen it to go ahead and give it a watch, especially if you did enjoy his other work, because I don't see any reason why, if you like the other shows, you wouldn't like this one. So. And with that said, I really would like to just get into just the story and the characters and really talk about things. So, I mean,
I
the
think with
prem.
the
Yeah,
story,
go ahead.
like with the story, it started out like it kind of tricks you. So it starts out
Hmm.
that you think it's going to be like maybe a slice of life harem type of
Well,
anime,
Charlotte kind of
and
does the
you
same
like
thing too. Charlotte does a very similar thing at the beginning of its show too. So.
I guess Angel Beats kind of sort of does
Well,
too,
no, Angel
but
Beats like it literally. You start off, you're in a parallel world. You don't know what the fuck is going on. Like this one, it's just like okay, it's just a slice of life bullshit. But there's still that intriguing thing of like okay, there's something going on here that we don't quite understand. And like I feel like that's how all three of these shows have in common. They all kind of start with that same premise: is that like something's going on in the first episode that is going to be resolved or figured out later on. And I think that's enough to keep you watching. A lot of anime might not have that.
I think one thing this show does a lot differently than either Charlotte or Angel Beats is how it sets up multiple different plot points that you don't even know where they're going.
Mhm.
So you had that whole secondary plot that was kind of related to some professor disappearing, and I didn't know what was going on with that for a long time. And then you had
Yeah.
the main plot with Yoda and Hina, and you're wondering, well, do are these just two separate anime that they just kind of mash together? And then when the plot lines actually come together, you're like, this is perfect. So
Yeah,
I
and
thought the show did such a great job of like converging these multiple like seemingly unrelated plot points, and then just making it the payoff so worth it if you stayed with the show right to the end.
yeah, and I would say it did kind of an admirable job. I mean, it did okay doing that. I didn't really like that portion of the show. I didn't really give a shit about the hacker guy. What was his character's name? I don't even remember. Um,
I actually
uh,
don't off the top of my head remember him either.
uh, Jaro Joro. I don't know. Is that who it
Uh,
was? No, no, no. That
no,
was
it's
that
the
was that was the parade.
Hiroto Suzuki.
That's right. I'm looking at the
Yeah.
character list. That was the other guy I was thinking of. It was one of the other supporting characters. Okay, yeah, the white-haired guy. Yeah, I mean, his character even now I really don't know what to think of him, especially that whole end sequence. Like what the fuck was that about? I mean, we'll kind of go over it, I guess. Or we can talk about it now.
No, no, I
Let's
think
just
we
talk
should,
about his character. Let's talk about his character. What do you think of his character? Since like that was like a whole subplot, and they did take a lot of time away from the main cast to go on this subplot with this loser. And like even though they tried to give him backstory, I agree with what you
That
said
that's
that
one
they
thing. That's one thing I will give this show a little. I mean, some criticism about is his
well
backstory should have
yeah
been more integral to the plot, and I think it should have been fleshed out a little bit
yeah
better.
we don't know what happened to his parents really, right? We don't really know what happened. They just kind of like died and then he got taken in by someone and he's obviously some kind of expert like hacker type of character and um I just didn't know. I really didn't know where they were going with it necessarily and how it tied in. It was okay, but I mean, I don't know if it was really
Especially at the
necessary.
ending,
Yeah, the
because at the
ending
ending,
where
you
he
don't
like
like, you
he
don't know
becomes part of the
what happened
friend.
with him or
He
anything.
become well he becomes part of the friend group too, which is kind of weird. Like, why did he become part of the friend group and like relive memories with him of what she
Well, I
did?
get why he was doing that. He was doing that to remind
But
Yoda that Hina exists.
I
I
know that,
It
but
seems
like,
like Yoda kinda forgot, and I was thinking,
yeah,
"What happened to him? Did they, like, cast a
but
spell on him or something?" But
yeah, but I don't know why. Like, why he like he didn't have to do that for a year or whatever. Like the whole thing, he could have just went up to him and be
that
like, "Oh, she's
now that you
here."
mentioned that it was, like, a year, that does kinda
Yeah,
not make much
but
sense.
then it's like later described like he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to live like a kid." So he was kind of doing it for a selfish reason. And then he drops him off there, and he's like, "I guess we're even now. I turned her in and got her captured, by the way. But I guess we're even now because I showed you where we were, where she was." That doesn't make you even, asshole. Like, how does that make you even? Like, not only did the last year you like pretend to be his friend, then the first sign of like him not getting it, you flip out, and then he like realizes it finally, and then you're like, okay, well now I'll show you where she actually was this whole time, you piece of shit. Oh, by the way, like I'm the one who turned her in and got her fucking slaughtered and handicapped. But we're even now. And then he drives away. Like, what the fuck kind of ending was that with his character? Like, it just gave me a very sour taste. Like, I didn't like his
And
character.
I
Like
will
I
say they also didn't really do a good job of establishing just how evil the organization that captured her really is.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know, like, especially with his character. Like, he seemed to genuinely like feel bad and care and not want that to happen to her, but then he ends up going through with it anyways. Like, and like his whole backstory, he was happy as parent. Like, I just don't know what to feel about his character by the end of it. And I feel like it was just kind of like I don't know. I think the show could have been better without his character. I feel like they could have done the same like reveal and the same thing without having like the character there, but I get why they
I
did it.
think his character needed to
Um,
be there
I don't
to
know.
give, because his character was really giving the audience, um, kind of an awareness of what was going on from the bad guy's point of view. So he
Yeah,
represented the bad guys and what was going on with them, while Hina and Yota were just living out their life normally. And then when they converge together, that's when all these plot points start to make a lot more sense about how Hina has all of these divine powers and what happened to this doctor or professor or whatever that what's his name? I already forgot.
I don't remember the professor's
Yeah,
name, but
the
why?
yeah.
But another thing, which I don't really remember why they were necessarily after the professor in the first place.
Well, they
He
weren't
was,
after him. They were after like that
but
computer he invented.
yeah, but like, how did they know about it? Like, why were they like looking into it? Because they didn't even know what he. The thing is, they didn't even know what he invented or what he was into. Like, he was hired to figure out what the professor's secret was, what he was really working on. But I don't know how the professor became a target in the first place. Like, he was just a
You know,
known good.
all smart guys in anime become targets
Well, I
because you're
mean, he was
smart.
just a known like genius, like computer guy and stuff. Like, and then like he's just suddenly a target by this organization. Like after he died, that he like I don't know how they even figured out he was working on something secret. Like I just didn't get any of that. I don't know if I just missed it or if I wasn't paying attention, but I didn't understand that, and I still don't know what the hell happened. I don't know how they even the premise isn't fully established in my mind of why they were after him or how they would have even known that such a thing even existed. There was nothing there. They didn't even know it existed because we know that because they put him on the mission to figure out what the fuck was created in the first place, right? So I don't know. That's just kind of another.
Make much sense to me. Is Hina had these like Yeah, but Hina had these godlike powers. How
Yeah.
come she couldn't predict that they were coming after her? She knew everything. She
Yeah,
literally knew everything.
and and
How
and
did she not see this
she,
coming?
yeah. The thing
I
is,
guess
like,
I guess she sorta did because she knew when they showed up that they were there for her,
well,
but if she had
well,
all of this knowledge, she should have been able to find a way to prevent any of that from happening.
which we can go into that. I mean, I really would like to talk about that. Let's just this kind of like the meat and potatoes of things, like the whole her whole power, her power means. So like I'm still a little iffy on it. I guess it's some kind of quantum computer chip that was inside her brain, which gave her access to like basically
All
all
knowledge
all
ever.
knowledge.
Yes.
Um, but the thing is, her omnipresence power only could see 30 days in the future because that's when she knew she was going to lose the power. But as you said, she wasn't able to like know other things, and I
Yeah, I
don't.
mean, that on top of just knowing everything, she was also, like, an analytical genius who could
But
literally solve any problem.
but the thing is like where that comes in, like the scope of her power. Maybe it's because you know, like even like science fiction computers, even if you accept like technology could evolve to the point to do such a thing, like she and it's implied heavily she's still connected into like the virtual network in a detectable type of way where the hacker was able to locate her existence through the network. So like the fact that she wasn't able to detect him is either like lazy writing to make the story work, or it was that
I
he was
think it's
really that
making that
good.
hacker guy
Or
just
he's
seem
really
like
that
just
good
that good.
because he was able to find out about her, identify her, and then he decides to warn her, which, as you said, doesn't really make sense that he would have to warn her because if she's has access to all of this and she's connected to this network and she's supposed to have omnipresence over the network and over knowledge itself, it didn't really make sense that she wouldn't know that. But anyways, that aside, I mean, were you a fan of her power and what it turned out to be, like that reveal?
Yes, absolutely. She basically was a god.
I mean, in a sense.
If you could predict a horse race and just get it right every time, you're pretty much a god. I mean, like, all the stuff she did was impossible for a human being,
Yeah,
so you have to
my
at
my
least be
question
willing to
is,
admit that she was way more than a human.
in the episode where they like try to pay off the ramen episode where they like rebuild the ramen shop, why didn't they just do horse races and make the money and just give it to her
I
instead of
guess she
going?
just had she was doing a lot of that stuff just to have fun,
I know that was the whole
but,
point, but even still, like that, I don't know.
still, if I was her, honestly, I would just go and bet on some horse races,
Well, I
maybe
mean, and like
make like $1 trillion in the stock
I
market.
know hindsight
Uh,
is like whatever, but even in the end, like, and that would have made more sense. See, that's where I thought the story like could have gone. Instead of having that dude hacker dude like finding her, maybe like they just started playing money and they become really rich, and then like, oh, something's going on, and then they discover that there's this person and that there might be some kind of ability that they have. Like that would make sense, but they don't even go that angle, which is fine because I've seen that a billion times too. But like I just, especially at the end of the show where the main character decides that he wants to go into research and become a researcher, he could have used all that funding to like find a cure. Money doesn't hurt.
I mean, there isn't a cure for it though.
That's the whole
He would
point though
have
is
to
the whole point is
reinvent that computer.
the whole point though is he wants to become a researcher to find the cure even if it's
Which is a
impossible.
resolution of the arc from the beginning where he didn't know what he wanted to do, after he, and finished school and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I guess
Yeah.
that was a great way of resolving that that I didn't even think about till now.
Yeah, but we're kind of just skipping all over the place. So I mean, I guess well, we talked a lot about Hina and her powers. So I guess what is his name? Yota.
Yeah.
What do you think of him as an MC? I've seen a lot of hate. I personally, I
I
don't
thought he was
really.
a pretty good main character.
I
He
mean,
does evolve over the course of the show. I mean, yeah, he starts out kinda bland, but he does evolve.
yeah. I mean, he's okay. I mean, as far as a protagonist goes, I mean, he was all right. I mean, he was there. I like Hina better, and I think the story
Yeah,
is really the
Hina was,
story
like, the
of
whole
Hina.
key to this show.
I think
Without
Hina's the
Hina,
real
this
main
show just
character.
does not work. She is the real main character in my opinion too.
Yeah, he's kind of just like a companion to her character. in my opinion there. But I didn't really care either way. I mean, I've seen he gets a lot of hate on the internet for being just kind of like uncaring about any of his friends and like
Really?
selfish. Yeah,
Really?
because like, well, people criticize him for his love relationship with the what's her name,
Izanami?
Izanami chick. Yeah, like they say like, oh, he was supposed to be her that's her childhood friend. He never seemed to care when she was sad, and like just a lot of stuff like that. He didn't want to do shit for his sister, and he just basically was forced to do everything. But I mean, yeah, I don't know.
He does evolve over the course of the show, though.
Yeah,
So him
yeah.
starting off bland didn't really matter. If you watch the entire show,
Especially people
he
hate
gets
on his
a lot
backs.
more character development than I've seen from a lot of main
Well,
characters
people hate
in
on his
shows.
backstory because, like, especially over the course of the show, like, especially with his relationship with Izanami, like, it's heavily implied he was a really shitty friend. I mean, because he didn't know anything she was into, he didn't know anything that was going on. The only thing he
But he knew
knew,
he was in love with her,
yeah.
which
Well,
is
no,
like
no,
how
no, he
anime
didn't.
characters
He
fall
he
in love.
didn't. He didn't know that because, like, he even says when he was a kid, he didn't even like acknowledge that. The
Well,
only
no, I'm saying as
no,
she got
listen,
older and
no,
became a
no, no,
total
no,
waifu,
no,
though.
no, 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 no. He only decided he liked her when other guys started liking her, and he realized that he couldn't have her. He admits that. He said
Oh,
he
that's
didn't
kind
get
of shallow now that I think
he
about it.
he
I'm
because
gonna have to
he
go back and watch that because I didn't catch that.
yeah, he admits that when they were kids, he didn't really see her that way until they got older and the other guys started liking her like that. And then he's like, "Oh, that's when I started liking her." And then he even mentions like, "When I was a kid, I guess I had her all to myself, so I didn't really think about it. But now that other people want her, now I want her." He literally says that. So like, for that reason alone, he's kind of a douchebag, and I'm glad that he doesn't
Yeah,
end up
but
with
she's a
her.
total waifu, so it's understandable where he's
She is a
coming from.
total waifu, but she deserves better than him.
So, are
That's
you saying you don't ship Yota and Izanami?
No, I ship Izanami with literally any other guy in the show.
It's kind of like implied by the intro anyway that um Asura is his best friend
Yeah.
is kind of shipped with her. Although you don't really actually see that in the show at all.
Well, yeah. Well, he's either he's shipped with her or the other chick, or I don't know. I don't know because he could end up with any of the chicks. He could end up with what's the name of the chick from the ramen episode that runs the ramen shop? Because
I don't
they're
remember.
hanging they're like in a lot of scenes together in the film, like the film they record in the later episodes.
All right,
Uh,
yeah. Looking at the character list, her name is like Hikari
yeah,
Jingyuji.
that's her. I'm looking at it now. Yeah. So, what'd you think of her character?
I only remember her from the ramen episode, and then
Well,
I
that
think she
that
was
was the
also
main
in the
one.
movie, like when they were making that little movie at the end.
Yeah, she's just kind of there.
She's not really like a major character. She's like a background
She's just a
support
friend of
type
his
character.
sister's. What about his
Yeah,
sister? You like his sister?
his sister I thought was pretty cool.
What
Like
another weird thing I wanted to mention is like so in the first few episodes he didn't really care about his sister it seemed, but then later on it's implied that he has a sister complex. But it kind of came out of nowhere because the episodes before the episode where like he's just obsessed over his sister, he didn't seem like he was that obsessed over her, at least in the introductory episodes.
I don't think you really saw much of his sister in the opening episodes, though.
But the thing is, you do see her though, and it because she does come into the table, and he's not like acting like all like sistery with her. But then later on, he's like, "Oh, I'll do anything for you," which it wasn't like that the first few episodes. So that just was kind of weird. I feel like they just threw that trope in there just because, like, they didn't have to do that. I don't know why they did that.
Well,
They
what?
did that for the weebs.
Nah,
They did
you
it for
act
the
like all
weebs.
weebs have a sister complex. That's not true at all.
Why do they have it? What does this like? What does him having a sister complex in this show? It's not even a harem. There's no point of
It's
him having a sister
it's
complex.
not a sister complex. It's just him
They
being the
literally
weeb's
say the
only
line.
brother.
They literally say the line. Hina says,
I mean, just
"I'm so
because they
sick of
say the
your."
line doesn't make it true, though.
She said, "I'm so sick of your sister complex."
Hina was making an offhand joke.
No, and then she's like,
That's
"That's like."
totally what was going on.
There's jokes about it all the time that he's like saying shit that's creepy and like being a weirdo. Like I just, it came out of nowhere for me, and I didn't like it. I like her as a character. I mean, she's kind of like into making really shitty films. I mean, hey, what can you do?
well, not just like no. She makes some awesome films,
Uh,
which basically when Hina takes over writing and stuff, and you start seeing that like these scripts start seeming very familiar. Like I could have sworn I'd seen a movie like that before. It is hilarious.
yeah,
Oh,
she was an interesting character. Let's
yes.
see, who else should we talk
And you
about?
know what? One other thing I'll say about this, because it all goes back to Hina. Hina made every other character in this show way more interesting just by being around them.
To a certain extent, I guess.
Hina
Um,
is like the special magic sauce that just made this show great.
well, the whole show is about her. Like it
Yes,
really
but like
is.
all these other characters, if you took Hina out of the show and just made a story with all these other characters, I don't think it would have worked. But the
Well,
fact
yeah,
that
because
Hina is there
she's the
just
main
makes
character.
every other character more interesting. Just seeing how they play off of Hina.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Um, I hate the
'Cause
CEO
you
character.
notice, like, when Hina gets captured, it becomes kinda slightly less interesting just seeing the other characters interact with each other. You're just waiting for Hina to come back into the picture.
Yeah, I do want to deep dive into the ending and talk about that, but I just want to talk about more of these characters first. Like the CEO character. I hated that
I
character.
I don't
I
remember that character.
She's like the older lady character, the one who's like the CEO of the company, the villain,
Uh,
like the main
well
villain, the CEO chick.
oh,
She's
yeah,
barely
she
in
was,
it. The
yeah.
CEO is the villain chick.
That's what she's gonna be remembered as too, the villain chick.
Yeah, she didn't really do much.
I'm looking at the fan wiki now, and
Her name is
this
just
fan
CEO.
wiki on his CEO can be summed up in about actually, it literally is about 3 sentences long.
Yeah,
Uh, it has
yeah.
nothing on plot, trivia, references, and for personality, it says the CEO has a calm yet very assertive personality. That's literally all that anybody could say about the CEO.
I would say my least favorite episode ties into other characters, which was uh the what is the name of the game they play? Like um
I thought it was like checkers or chess or something. No,
no,
it was
what is the name of it? I forget what it's called. It starts with an M.
shogi.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I thought it was shogi.
No, it's not regular shogi. It's like whatever it's called. It's like the
Like
game that
space,
you can. It's
yeah,
the game
space
you play.
battle god
It
shogi or
starts with an
something.
M. It's like it's the one like you can play on like computers. Uh,
All right, I pulled up the synopsis for that episode, and let's
what
see, it mentions
what is the name of
uh
it?
it says yeah, mahjong.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Can't believe I didn't remember that.
I just watched it and I forgot it. But yeah, that episode was my least favorite, and I don't like the chick who ran it, who becomes like a character.
I thought that was
Um,
kind of a cool episode.
I
It
just
seemed like he was just making up rules and
well,
stuff, and
my biggest complaint about the show in general and the way the episodes work, it is like that type of anime, like it's like one of those slice of life style animes where it's like he just starts with like no friends, and then by the end of it like he meets a chick, and then they just make a bunch of friends and they all hang out together, which is like, I mean, that's the most generic part of the show for me. But that aside, there's interesting enough stuff there, and there's things that still keep you engaged. Let's see. Anyone else worth talking about?
there's his best friend Asura.
We talked about him a
I
little
kind of
bit.
briefly talked about him earlier.
He doesn't do
He,
much. I mean, there's the one plot
I
point
feel
with
like if
him.
I had to have a best friend, I would want it to be
Well,
that
the
guy.
only thing they had, like, they literally do like one episode where it's like they have his like whole, they do his whole
Like the
story
one where
arc.
he rides the motorcycle
Yeah,
at the end of
they
Christmas
do his
Hina.
entire story arc in one episode. Like you like
Like
they don't like set it up. They're just like, all right, they're gonna in the motorcycle chase. They do his whole story arc, which is like he got injured, so they couldn't do basketball, and then like there was a moment that they failed, and then they do it together. And like they could have set that up at least like a couple episodes ago. I don't know why they had to like do it all in the span of 5 minutes, like his entire
well,
arc, and then after that, there's
they had
nothing
13
else.
episodes to get a lot of plot and character development and stuff going. and they had a lot of plot and a lot of character development going in this show.
Yeah, yeah. And that episode was okay, where like she almost dies, where Hina gets or not captured, but is a dumbass and gets locked, and with her omnipresence gets locked inside of a ice fan. Like her omnipresence really is limited, isn't it?
It it's kind of inconsistent because it seems at times it's limitless,
Yeah.
and then it just seems at times where she isn't as omnipresent as she was in other episodes.
Yeah, it really I wish they explained if like she has to think about it to activate it or if it's always active, because it's implied almost that like if she's not trying to think about it, then she doesn't just know it. So it does kind of work like a computer. You have to like put in a request to know something and then you know it, versus like just constantly in a state of knowing. Right? Would that make
Yeah, and
sense?
for it to be something tied to a computer, you'd figure she would just automatically just be good at video games. But remember at the start when Yoda was teaching her how to play that game, she wasn't initially just great at it, but she eventually does
Well,
become
she
good at it.
wasn't she wasn't a full computer. That's a thing. I mean, she still was tangibly human, kind of like playing piano. She should have been good at playing piano too, like in theory. But she's still like she said when playing the piano, she's limited by the physical capabilities of her body, like with her dexterity and stuff like that. So maybe it applies to gaming in a sense. But she was playing an RPG, which is basically like I don't know. It's whatever. I don't think it's as
Yeah, I
important.
mean, like
That
if
I
I had like
did
a god level intellect, you'd better believe I'd be playing RPGs
I
on the
I
master
I
settings.
did like the video game subplot, like throughout each episode where they like were playing games constantly, and I'm actually glad that subplot got a payoff at the end. I think that was cool.
Yes,
Probably
because
probably my favorite subplot.
clearly they were playing like some Dragon Quest ripoff.
Something like
I
that, yeah.
yeah, I felt like it would have been better if they were like maybe playing a Final Fantasy ripoff. But I was pretty particular about the games she was playing. And I was like, this game should have these mechanics in it. And I feel like this would make the show a little bit more intriguing if this had like, something like a materia based level up system or something like that. And yes, I went that far into it because everything about the show, from the video games they were playing to the some of the ridiculous stuff that Hina had Yoda do to resolve whatever issue, whatever one of his friends was having at the time, was genuinely interesting. So I guess another character that, actually two characters that I, even though we don't really know much about them, they're just kind of interesting in how they're like involved in this plot at all. Yoda's parents. How I never really got how they, mm, like, I'm guessing they were students of that professor, Hina's
Wait,
grandfather, whatever.
I'm a little confused. So sorry. Yeah, we can talk about that more. So I got confused because in the character list, apparently there was a cameo from a dude from Charlotte in this. The dude with the blue hair and the glasses.
Really?
Yeah, that was
I
the
missed that.
Joe Jiro guy. That's who I thought was the other guy when I
Was
looked at
that
it.
the dude who just like burst out really fast?
Yeah,
Like,
that was him. He made a cameo in episode 6 according to my anime list.
I'm gonna have to go back and
Um
rewatch episode 6. Oh, episode 6 was when they went to the festival.
yeah, he must have just been in
Uh,
the background. I didn't see that.
I
But
mean,
that
they could have
confirms it's
snuck
in the same
anything in.
universe as Charlotte.
Yes. So this
So
is gonna bring up
that's not even a
more
theory.
theories to put on Reddit.
And then Angel Beats, definitely since it's in the afterworld, we can assume that's in the same world. So these three, at
Yeah,
least these
and when
three.
we've already established that Charlotte takes place in the same universe as My Hero Academia.
So, yeah, it's all adding up
Yeah.
now. Where
Yeah.
does But okay, but for real though, like just talking about I mean, obviously it's a cameo, but like that's interesting to think about if this was in the same universe as Charlotte. This would have
Yeah,
to
that is
be
interesting.
after Charlotte, right? But the thing is, what if the CEO and the agency here is the same like same company from Charlotte? Maybe like this is all leading up to an anime where it's gonna be like full on battle to take out the organization. And because in both of these shows, the organization kind of wins in a way. They get more fucked over in Charlotte, but in this, the organization basically wins. They get exactly what they want without any consequences, which is
There's
kind of
any
fucked.
consequences in the show,
That's
but we
true.
don't know what happens after the show.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think this is leading up. He's
Maybe that
gonna.
professor put, like, some, like, fail safe in the system that if it, was, like, out of contact with Hina for a certain amount of time, it would just, like, crash.
Destroy the world. I'm theorizing there's going to be a show where it's going to be like basically all the characters from all the other shows are going to gather together and take out the organization.
Yes,
Because
and
maybe the organization like takes all these like technology and magical powers and they're trying to harness them to take over heaven to kill God. And
and
maybe
that's how it plays into Angel Beats.
yeah, and then Angel comes down and then they take everyone from the Angel Beats area and they wage war with all the Charlotte characters and then all the other characters from this show all are implanted with these super chips and like it's just war. That's my pitch.
And then Angel, after receiving, powers from Charlotte's comet, becomes God.
She replaces God. I mean, it's a good theory. We'll have to
It's
expand
a
on it.
solid theory.
Check out our Reddit if you want to read more about our theories. We're
Yeah, that's an
definitely.
interesting one.
But anyways, sorry for that aside. We were talking about his
That was a real tangent.
his parents, right? Is that like
I never got how his parents,
they were his
knew.
like the professor's
They were the
students?
professor's students, but why was it just them that was just so close to the professor that
Yeah,
he
out of
decided to
everyone.
leave his granddaughter with him?
Yeah, he didn't. It seems like you'd have more people if they were his students. Like they seem pretty fucking lazy. Like what kind of he's out there inventing that shit. What are they doing? Like their dad doesn't
They
even
they
go to
they they
work.
decided, "Oh, yeah," even though our professor was, like, electronic engineering and computer mathematical genius and all this other stuff, we, we're just gonna run this home life, and I don't
He,
even know where his parents work. I'm assuming his
well,
mom
yeah.
probably works at the pharmacy local pharmacy maybe or something, I don't know, and his dad,
His
probably
dad
works
didn't even
a
go to
9 to
work.
5 job.
Yeah.
I don't know what
There
was
was
going
the
on with
joke
him,
that
but
his dad like constantly wasn't going to work and instead was fucking around with them. So whatever he does, he definitely doesn't give a shit. He's not out there making computer chips that will save handicapped people.
yeah, I'm looking at the wiki on, like, the parents, and it's slightly longer than the wiki on the CEO.
Yeah.
Slightly
Well,
longer, and
like
when I mean slightly longer, not even an entire sentence longer.
it kind of begs the question: Could this have been? Could this have there been a chip invented that could have like allowed her to move and walk without having omnipresence? Was that really necessary? Like, what about omnipresence gave her the ability to do that?
Maybe the professor thought, "You know what? I want my granddaughter to be
Well, like,
a."
I'll believe the concept that like you could make something like that. But if you could make that, it seems like making something that could give someone body control would be like child's play. But maybe I'm just stupid.
Yeah. Oh, you don't know as much as the professor did. Like,
I
I
guess
think
so.
he invented a computer that could, like, basically predict all of reality and stuff.
Yeah. I
I think
still
if the computer and Hina had a truly evolved together, then Hina would have probably been able to literally destroy the
well,
world.
another interesting parallel that I just thought of now. Remember, like Angel Beats actually had like a hacker dude in it too. Remember, like
Yeah.
that was a whole thing in Angel Beats. It was like a
Mm.
hacker dude and hacking. Like everything was like computer related. Maybe Charlotte was just a simulation. Think about
You think
that one.
Charlotte was a simulation
They were,
by the hacker from Angel Beats, who's probably the
yeah,
same hacker from The Day I Became God, so
yeah,
that hacker dude dies,
and he
and
was
then he goes
reincarnated.
into a heaven in Angel Beats or whatever,
Yeah,
and he makes this simulation which goes through the whole world of Charlotte.
Yeah, to see how the world would have been if there were powers, you know.
Yeah. And then his simulation gets out of control, and then all of a sudden, the world of My Hero Academia.
Yep. And that's going to be the final reveal of My Hero is that they're all in a sim. Now
I like where
that would
that
be
theory
bullshit.
goes.
I'd be pissed off if an anime ended like that, especially as long as My Hero. And I
Yeah.
was the greatest hero in the world. God, we need to talk more about My Hero. One, we'll
Yeah, we
talk
we
about it
spent
more.
2 hours
Uh,
talking about it that one day,
well,
remember?
when the new season comes out, we'll talk about it. But like, there's a lot of shit that I like. I just whatever. That aside, any other characters worth talking about here?
Not really. I didn't care too much about
A
I
lot
mean,
of them were
we
just
did
like
we talk about
bodyguard
Izanami enough? Like,
characters.
you mentioned the Izanami, his relationship with her and stuff.
Um,
The
we could
one
talk
thing
about
about
her
Izanami
arc, I
is she
guess.
only really gets any kind of development in that one episode where you find out about her mother and,
Yeah,
her
every
father and stuff.
character kind of gets like one episode where their plot is kind of rushed through, in a sense. Like every character, except for like Hina and
You'd figure she
Yoda.
would get more development considering
Well,
a
they kind
major
of
plot
like.
point of the beginning of the show is Hina helping Yoda to impress her.
Well, I think it was just like doing the trope of like slice of life anime and stuff like that. That there was just like a romance thing, but that fell apart, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, I liked her character. She's obviously my waifu of the show, so she's cool.
She's definitely mine.
I mean, her mother. How did her mother die? Do we know?
I do not remember.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
know she's dead
it was
though.
an emotional episode. People said like in the negative reviews on this again, which I
Which
usually
I
don't read
disagree
too
with.
many reviews on shows, but I had some time to kill before we filmed this or whatever, so I was like, okay, we'll just read some reviews what other people have been saying, and like a lot of people said the show's like not emotional at all, and like that the emotions were forced. I didn't really feel that way. I mean, sure,
No,
like
especially at the end when like Hina is going through that whole thing at that facility and he's trying to help her get her memories back.
yeah,
It's really emotional, especially at that point where you think he's gonna give up cuz he can't reach out to her, but he didn't then Hina all of a sudden gains a little bit of her memory back and she remembers who he is and
yeah,
it just
I wanted to get into that like once we got done with the characters and really just talk about how everything ended,
yeah, I
but
think we're pretty much done with all the important characters.
yeah, but as far as the ending goes, I mean, I did want to talk a little bit about Hina's the whole episode with her family when we actually learn about everything, like her kind of origin, which was interesting to say the least, I guess. Cuz like
Yeah, her father is a piece of garbage.
one thing I did want to mention, right? The timeline of things for her, I'm still a little confused about. I I so like when does she get the chip put into her? Because her dad says that he only knew her backstory up until she was about 7. So I'm trying to make sense of when she was abandoned, and it was
We
implied
don't
that
even know how old she is.
well, her dad said that she's supposed to be like elementary school age. Her dad said he knew about her up till he was 7, and he clearly has kids though that are like at least like 6, his kids that run out of his house, and that's after he abandoned her. So
So,
I don't know
we're
the
assuming
timeline
she's
on it.
like
So I
13
don't
or 14 or something?
no, because she's supposed to be elementary school age. That's like middle school age. Because they
That
say,
kinda that kinda makes,
and unless
'cause
it's the
Yoda is in
subtitles,
high school, right?
they are they just finished like high school and then go to cram school, like right before college. Like the final year is like them in cram school, which I guess is our equivalent of like the senior year, I guess. So
I
I
was
guess
assuming that she
they're
was maybe closer to Yoda's age considering they
no,
obviously
that couldn't, unless she really was just she just looked younger because of her disability. That's what I was trying to make sense of. Like, is she like actually elementary school age, or is she actually, because it's implied that he says specifically 7, so she could be like older, and she really is just like a lolly like type of character. I just don't know. I don't know. I was confused about
I
it
think she
because the timeline for it is a little confusing. And then I also just wanted to talk about the romance between them because is there a romance? Is this a romantic thing? Like I don't because it's implied that they're like I know they say they love each other, but like
it's heavily implied that
it's
Yoda
implied that he like
have
chose
like
her and he's gonna like love her and take care of her more than just like a regular relationship, right?
yeah, I think that was the implication that I mean, it doesn't, flat out come out and say they have that kind of relationship, but it's heavily implied that that's the kind of relationship Yoda like has with
But
her by the end.
yeah, but the thing is, the real question is just like the age. And the reason I wanted to mention all that is because, okay, this is what I want to talk about. So it was implied, the timeline of this is super duper important though for me because her dad says that he only knew her life up till the 7, and then he said he left after that. And then he has like kids that are like 6, so she could be in that same range, 6, like 13, 14, which would make sense. But then it's implied that when he left when she was 7, she was still in that vegetatable state, right? And then, but the reason I mentioned that, why it's
I also,
important,
before you go on, I would like to mention again that Hina's father is human garbage.
yeah, and
Continue.
that's what I want to talk about. So like the reason that's so important is because in a flashback, it's implied that she was a genius as a young child. That she actually was excelling, and I'm wondering if that flashback was before or after the chip. Because if it is implied that she was doing good and then went shitty and then got the chip, that's one thing. But if like that's what I'm trying to figure out because there's a flashback that shows her like doing things that would imply that she was smarter before, unless I just misread that scene. And that's why I'm like trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, I don't think they really resolve that in this show.
Well, I'm
It
I'm just
might
gonna
be something
I'm
that
just
they
going to
expand on in a visual novel or
Well,
something.
I'm just gonna assume I might have misread that part, and I'm just gonna assume that maybe she was just full vegetable because it really wouldn't make sense for her dad to like see her decline. It would make sense if she was like that her whole life, and he just gave up trying to take care of her because that's a reality, and that's like you said, it's a disgusting thing to do. But in
Yeah,
reality,
and her dad is like human
I
garbage.
would probably do the same thing. To be honest,
No,
I
no,
couldn't take
no.
care of a handicapped person that can't do anything. Like that's like my
If it's
ultimate
your
nightmare.
child, it's a whole
No,
different story.
no, I'm like, I'm not. I don't give a
No,
shit.
no, no. Her dad's human garbage, and there's no
If
defending
she
what
was
he did.
always like that since birth, I mean, it's definitely a challenge, and I don't blame him for what
Yeah,
he did.
yeah, but you know what? Nobody told him to have kids. So
Yeah, but
he
you
after
can't
he
predict.
abandons her, he goes and has two more kids.
You
Like,
can't pick
why
how
is
your
this
kids
dude?
turn
If this
out.
dude doesn't want the responsibilities of parenthood, why is he still having kids?
My thing is, it's not about the responsibility of parenthood. It's that his kid was literally completely mentally inept and would never be like a regular person. And the only reason she
So
got to
so
that
you
point,
that justifies him abandoning his daughter because he just didn't feel like taking care of a
I
handicapped person.
I would
What
s-
the, like listen to yourself
no,
talking. You know that sounds ridiculous.
It no, because like the level of handicap, like she was full like mentally disabled. Like she would have to have someone like fully take care of her for the rest of her life. It's different
Yeah,
by
her
the
parents.
end.
Her freaking parents.
No, it doesn't really matter who takes care of
No,
someone like that. It
well, I
really
can tell you
doesn't.
who should be doing it. Her
Well,
parents.
it depends on the level of how bad things were. You got to remember that her mom was so it was so terrible that she literally killed herself. Like that's how bad it was. And like it's
Yeah, her mom, because her mom, like, loved her daughter so much that, yeah, it was unbearable seeing your daughter in a state like that. But her dad's like, you know what? I had better things to do with my life. Yeah, I decided
well,
let my kid be somebody else's problem. That's
yeah,
basically what he did.
which
And
I
there's
can't
literally
blame him
nothing
for
you could
that.
say that could justify that.
Yeah, it's not justifiable, but I don't blame him for that.
I
Um,
blame him. I completely blame him.
no,
Yes,
I can't blame anyone for doing that because it's such a burden having someone like that in your life
yeah,
that
like like your own kid. You're acting like it's like,
it doesn't
oh
matter.
man,
Blood is nothing.
I
Like it doesn't mean shit. That doesn't
are
mean
you
anything.
kidding me?
It doesn't.
Yes, it does. I
You
mean,
ch-
actually, I'm not gonna say
you
blood, like
you
necessarily
choose what
means
matters in life.
everything, but if you have like a kid and you just choose to abandon that kid because I just didn't feel like taking
It
care of him
depends. It
anymore.
really depends on the extent of how bad she was in her condition. It's implied that later on her condition is a little bit better, but we don't know how bad the condition was the time he left. Like, obviously, it wasn't bad enough. Like, it was like a pull the plug type of situation, but it was bad enough that she was basically the equivalent of like a Down syndrome person. Which, for that, I mean, it's just a philosophy debate if you think people like that should even be allowed to live. Which
Yes, they
obviously,
should.
yeah, people should be, life should live, but like the thing is, if you had the option, if you knew they were going to be born like that, should you be able to eliminate that? And I would say yes, because no one wants that
What
thing
the
to live, and nature doesn't want them to live. So like for them to be
Nate?
born,
Like, yeah, you're pitting words into nature's mouth at this point.
no, they couldn't survive in like the natural world. Natural selection would, they would have easily died. A lot of those people are kept alive through like machines. But the thing is, she's not to that extent, or we don't know what level of extent or how difficult it was. When we see her by the end of the show, the only reason we have the level of feeling we do to her is because of how she was when she wasn't her natural self. So that's why the show gets tricky, especially in the ending sequence, because it's like we as the audience have this deeper relationship with this character, but like if we just met this character in her original state, we wouldn't have felt that way. And that's the reality
I
for
can tell you
everyone.
this much: if I was that character's father, I would not be Hina's father because that dude
Yeah,
is literal human dog shit.
that's the thing. Like, I don't know if I won't say he did the wrong thing, and I won't say he did the right thing. There
I
really
will
is
say
no
definitely,
in
definitively, he did the
in
wrong thing.
in situations like that. I think there is no. It's not fair. It's a not
You're
fair
trying to
situation.
justify. You're trying to like do these mental gymnastics
It's
to
not mental
justify a parent
gymnastics.
abandoning their child.
It doesn't matter. There's
Like,
context
there's
for it.
like literally no amount of logic you could twist that makes what he did
I
acceptable.
don't think a parent should have to sacrifice their life for a child. Point blank. Period. In any
Are
circumstance.
I don't even like
They shouldn't. You
wow.
can say morally wise, you might agree with that, and that's your opinion. But I don't think a parent owes anything to a child, just like a child doesn't owe anything to a parent.
I think morally anybody who agrees with the statement you just said
I'm just
should not be a
saying,
parent.
life itself is the greatest privilege there is. So if you're able to live in this world, you should be grateful of that. You shouldn't expect anything of anyone, and the world shouldn't expect anything of you.
Honestly, if you are willing to like bring a new life into this world, you need to accept responsibility for that life.
Okay, but again, that's if you're mentally capable of handling the situation. You're like saying like a girl who has a child that she didn't want and she couldn't take care of her mentally, financially. You're saying people that send those kids for adoption are evil, just as evil. That's what you're saying. That's
No,
essentially
I
what
mean,
he's done.
no, no,
Essentially,
no.
that's essentially what he's done here. He had a child he couldn't mentally
Well, no,
handle or
you're
take care
giving like
of.
you're trying
No,
to equate
no.
two different situations.
No, they're
Like
not.
the
They're
thing is
not.
like a girl who brings a child in this
No,
world,
they're not.
like that
He
can't
was
take
not
care of her
meant.
for whatever
Okay,
reason. She is like
no,
doing the
but
responsible thing by giving up
and
custody.
it's a
He
response.
was just being
Okay, no,
irresponsible
it's not
by
irresponsible.
abandoning her.
Okay, no, because if he mentally could not handle it, right? His wife literally committed suicide because of the situation. He probably was on the bottom of the barrels of his mentality. He might have killed himself if he stayed on. He could not function as a parent mentally. If he could not handle that situation, he did the right thing by giving her to care of people that literally cared. And the person she was with actually cared about her well-being a lot. So you're saying like for her to go in a situation where she's being cared for, I think is just bullshit. Like the parent is not always the best guardian, especially
No,
a
I'm
parent
not saying,
who
but
just
like
had
what he
a
did
wife
is
kill
just
herself.
basically
No,
he
I
basically
just,
just
I'm
didn't want
saying,
the responsibility. It was not
look,
about any mental issue or
no,
anything.
that's
You
not
are
true.
trying really
No,
hard to make this guy seem good when he just was not that good of a guy.
if he
Um,
truly felt that way, he shouldn't have a kid. You shouldn't force someone to have a kid if they don't want the kid, dude. If he can't take it,
no,
if he
yeah,
doesn't want the
yeah, like,
responsibility,
but the
that's
thing,
why he shouldn't have the kid. You can't
what
say
then?
that
Why
that's
did he have
okay.
two more kids then?
Maybe because
If
he
he
had a
didn't just didn't want the responsibility.
maybe he wouldn't have abandoned.
It's like he just
No,
couldn't keep it in his pants, but he's like,
no. If
I'll take care of a kid if it's
maybe if
worth
his
my
wife was
time.
still alive, he could have handled it, but mentally he couldn't. Mentally he couldn't.
No,
But he had his
I
wife
see.
in that new relationship, and they
No,
had. They had kids. The thing is, we just
You know
don't
what?
know.
I'm
I'm
gonna
not going
just
to
go
sit
on to
here
say it.
and
I'm
judge
gonna
his
continue
character.
to. I'm gonna judge this character. This kid
I'm
was
not.
human dog shit.
I don't think so. I think
Yeah, yeah.
it's a very
I mean,
complex
ma-
topic, and I don't necessarily like talking about it too much because it is very debatable. But the thing is, it depends on your how you value your life, how you value your relationships, and I have a very nuanced perspective of it because I don't value any life, and I think everything is equally worthless because I'm a nihilist, and that's just the
no,
way it is. And you give things value. So if someone decides that they don't want to deal with something that's troublesome, or if they would go into a situation where they would beat the kitty potentially, or abuse the child, or anything negative in that way, which is very likely for people that are mental illness or have to deal with their children. I recently
did that
at
dude
my
in that show
job,
seem like he had a
let
mental
me tell you a
illness?
story. Recently at my job, I literally talked to a lady who was dealing with her mother who had dementia, and she was just telling me how fucking grateful she's going to be when that dumb dimensional bitch is out of her house or just dies. She literally told me that. And that's how
Wow.
sick these people are about taking care of people with mental illness or physical handicaps. They don't like it. None of them like it. So a lot of those people are better off in care of professionals that actually have reasons like the character that we met, which I forget her name, but she was a good character that actually wanted the well-being because of what happened to her daughter. People like that do exist, and I think the care of these type of
Yes,
handicapped people
so I'm
should be
happy that
left to
he
them,
got
not to
into
people
better
like
care,
him,
but it
not to
still
people
does
like
not
me who
justify him giving up. Because the thing is, he didn't give up his daughter because he had a mental illness. He didn't give up his daughter
we don't
because
know
it was
that.
what was in
We
her
don't
best interest. He gave
we
her up
don't know
just
that.
because he didn't feel like dealing with the headache.
That's
And
not that's undermining his
what
situation.
what what reason did he give in the show? What reason did he give?
His
Because I can tell
wife
you this much
killed
from the way
herself
he was
and
portrayed, he did not have a mental illness.
no, his
Because
okay,
he was a
he
functional adult. He
he's
had 2
better
kids.
now.
He had a wife.
He's better now because he got his shit together over time. And he didn't want anything to do with her because it was just too sad to deal with. And this is just a reality we face every day. And it just this type of stuff happens in real life. And I think it's a very the fact that we're having this conversation. It's really kind of what the whole point of it was. You're supposed to feel that way, and the thing is, you're supposed to feel both ways. And honestly, I just don't think a parent has as much responsibility as you're giving them. That's what I'll say about it.
A
I really
parent.
don't.
I mean, like the thing is, you're saying like you should just be able to bring a kid into this world, and then if you don't want it, just toss it aside, and then continue doing what you were doing
Yeah,
because you felt like it. And
yeah.
at that point, if you don't feel like dealing with the responsibility of kids, don't have kids. Don't
Okay,
and
but you can.
especially don't ditch one
Okay,
kid and then go have 2 more.
we don't even know the situation. It happens all the time. You could knock up a chick and not want the kid, but you can't force her to get an abortion, but she has the kid. I think it's that father's right to abandon the kid. I'm just saying, I don't think it's right for women to have the final say in things because a man has no control in that situation. So, and you can pay child support, you can do whatever you want. You can call a deadbeat dad, but I don't think a man should be. It takes 2 people to do this thing. So, like, and the thing is, the woman
Well, like
died
the
in this
thing is, both
situation
both parents
because it was
accept equal
unbearable,
responsibility for the
and
kid.
no one chose for the kid to be like that, and that's the thing. So, at the end of the day, no one chose the situation. So, however you react to it,
Well, here's
I
the
would
thing. I don't know
argue.
if you know much about how reproduction works, but you make some choices that go into this whole reproduction process. You actively make choices that lead to it.
But you don't know that's going to be the end result.
Oh, come on. You know it's a high possibility. You
It's not
know
a.
exactly what.
It's not
Oh,
necessarily a high possibility. And the
That
thing is,
that's
they
like that's like saying
even
when you like jump out into like traffic on a highway,
listen.
you're not prepared to die from getting hit by
No,
a
it's
car
not the
going at like
same.
70 miles
Not
an
the
hour.
same.
You know
And
it's not a absolute like inevitability, but it's a
and
high probability that it's gonna happen.
no, no. And even if it was planned, still the reality of having a handicapped child is so complex that I cannot judge anyone because that I have seen that situation play out. I have personally worked with people that have been in situations like that, and it is the most fucked up thing I think in this world. I think there's fewer things that are fucked up. I think it's easier for you to have a child die than it is to live with a child that has a mental illness
I'm not
like
saying it's
handicap
easy.
that
I'm not saying it's
significantly.
easy, but
And
I'm
I'm
saying
saying
like
that is
you're not
almost
justified
the
in just
worst
keeping a
thing.
kid if it's convenient for you.
It's
If
not
you
about
have a good
convenience.
reason, if you have a good
His
reason,
wife killed herself.
So
That
he
is the
like he decides to abandon the only thing his
what
wife
was
left
he
behind.
supposed to do? He has to work. He has to live a life. He didn't have time to 24/7 take care of her, bro. What is he supposed to do? Visitor
And yet he
still?
goes on and he has two more kids.
Oh, you're telling
Like,
me he can't just have a family and have a life?
yeah,
It's just.
I guess if he gets sick of those kids, he can just go toss them aside too and just move on
But
to
I'm
wherever the
saying,
hell else he
what
wants.
benefit to her life? Say he left her there and he came and visited her. Would it not be harder for him to come
He
visit?
didn't even go and visit her.
But I'm saying that's why he shouldn't have done that, because that would have been more detrimental to her character.
You could tell Hina felt some kind of way about the guy
No, she
when
didn't
they were
care at
there.
all.
Yeah,
She truly didn't care. You care more about the abandonment than Hina did, and that really shows a lot.
no,
You're
no.
getting offended for other people. Welcome to the
Don't make me sound like some
society
social
of
justice warrior.
today.
But
You're just getting offended for people that didn't even care. Her character didn't care, so you shouldn't care. Even if you think it's against your personal moral belief, if you feel that way personally, if you ever were in that situation, that's commendable. But I'm not going to judge someone else for doing it, and you shouldn't either, because
are
we
you?
don't know the nuances
You
or the
know what? You know
complexity
what?
to the
I'm
story.
gonna just go ahead and say you're right. Have as many kids as you want. Toss them aside. Go have some more kids. Hey, if you have like 5 or 6 kids, and like as long as you drop them off at the right orphanage, you bear no responsibility. Screw it. Like you
And
only live
this is
once.
Japan
Uh,
too. We're talking about this is Japan, dude. They do this shit on the regular. Japan fathers abandon their kids all the time for things like this. That's a
it,
cultural thing in Japan.
you I mean, I don't know the statistics on that, but you make it sound like it's something that
Well,
is
Japanese
even.
fathers don't like dealing with like just any kids with any problems. Like they're very
No, I
traditional.
you know I wish I could treat bills like you think guys should treat kids.
Oh
I
my
wish I
god.
could just abandon bills when I just get sick of paying them. Um, but we live in the real world where if you for instance you buy a car or whatever, you buy a house, um the whoever you're buying that car or house from doesn't really give two
Listen,
craps if you just decide
we've
I just
we've
don't want the
we've killed this
responsibility anymore.
topic. We spent half the podcast on this topic. We both have opposing views. It's a very nuanced topic. It's a conversation that is strange. I did not expect to have going into this anime. But all that aside, what did you think of the actual resolution, though? The ending with him going there, trying to rehabilitate her, almost giving up several times, and having to be reminded by several people that he probably shouldn't do that if he wasn't a piece of shit.
I thought the resolution where he was at the facility and stuff, it was great. It didn't rush it. It like gave time, and it showed him trying and failing at different things over and over and getting frustrated and coming close to giving up, which is I felt something a little bit more relatable because if you went into that thinking that it was just going to be all peaches, and he was going to see her and she was just going to instantly recognize him, they were going to go off and live happily after, you probably weren't fully grounded in reality of situations like that. So I do like that they did treat it a little more seriously, and they showed how this could possibly happen in a more realistic scenario. I thought that and it made that moment where she does finally remember him and she starts saying his name over and over. It made that a little bit more emotional because you saw him going through so much and like reaching the point of like um basically where he just didn't think he was going to be able to do anything. He was willing to give up. And when you reach that point and you think that there's nothing I can do anymore, and it's just something you really want to happen, but you just can't make it happen. That feeling where your work that you put in is finally validated. It's like a huge relief.
Yeah,
And
and here's the thing. I just want to say one more thing. That's something her father probably did and never got
oh
to,
no,
and
no, I'm gonna leave the father. I'm gonna leave the father
that's
thing
why
alone.
he gave up.
I'm
And the
sticking
thing
with
is,
the.
the reason I mention that is because Honestly, I heard this ending, a lot of people hated it. So what I was assuming was gonna happen is that she wasn't going to, like, come back. And you know what? I would have been fine with it if he gave
No,
up.
I would not have been fine with
I would have
that
been
because
okay with
it
that
goes
ending.
against the character development that he had up to that
But
point.
the thing is, I
Because
think that was still
Yota
development,
Yota
even if he
actually
decided,
built
because if
up
he
as a
decided that
loyal
was best
character.
for her, like we were talking about before. Sometimes it's best for people that have these severe handicaps to be away from the situation. But the thing is, his character was resolved mentally and was willing to take this commitment. And he chose the commitment, unlike the father. And he decided to choose the commitment, and now he's going to spend the rest of his life taking care of her. And that's his prerogative. He chose that. I don't know how long someone with this condition lives. To be honest with you, I don't even, is this condition even real? I don't even know. This I don't know anything about this condition or anything about it or what it could be. Um,
Well, let's do a quick Google search.
yeah, so and I
Uh,
don't know if her like life expectancy's short. I know he's gonna like go to research it. And I was satisfied ultimately with this ending, but I would have been okay with the other ending too, because the thing is, the reality is I'm not gonna judge the characters for whatever they choose. And like I'm glad to see
uh,
that she retained some of the memories, but the whole but like even the lady who truly cared about her like didn't know if it was actually her or the machine. And that was an argument he had. And that's an argument that we would have with ourselves when we talk about this. How much of what that personality was her versus the machine. And at the end, I'm glad that they had the resolution that it was truly her, just kind of the machine amplified her. But the thing is, we would have never seen that if it wasn't the machine. And like this show really makes you think about people that are in these situations. Like I said, people with severe physical handicaps or even mental handicaps for that matter, if they're able to have that cured and you got to see who they were, obviously it would give you more empathy for those people, because obviously I mentioned earlier, which makes me sound like a cold-hearted asshole, people that live with these severe function issues mentally, physically, it really would be a miserable life, and I hate life even existing like that. It actually does make me sad. But like shows like this reminds you, okay, well they're still people, at least to a certain extent, even if they are heavily dysfunction. And if they had a chance, then you could see that. But the thing is, I don't know. It just depends on the level, I guess. And this level, I think, is manageable, and she was at least able to like talk and function and remember things and care. I don't know what type of weird sexual relationship they might have in the future. It's going to be very kinky, and I don't even want to think about it.
I think you're
Um,
like you're not even like you're looking like past the importance.
well,
Like the
I don't
sexual
know. The
relationship
whole thing.
between them doesn't really matter as much as the fact that they keep
Well,
a connection with
it
each
does if
other.
you want to get
It
your
gives
dick
him
wet.
a reason. Hmm?
It does if you want to get your dick wet, which, as we know, with a
Which,
Japanese main protagonist, is that's their entire motive for living. And for him to give up
but
his
it
give
wasn't
that up,
Yoda's, and like Yoda was willing to give that up to like keep Hina. So Yoda was willing to sacrifice a lot for Hina because he genuinely loved her, and he didn't just have this fetish like like this lust like he did for the ultimate waifu Izanami, which Izanami's still
yeah,
ultimate waifu. I don't care what
yeah.
anyone says, but it was like it was a lot deeper than that, and it was something I guess if you haven't actually experienced it, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. I haven't personally experienced it, so I am having a hard time wrapping my head around it. But it's obviously something that mattered more to him. His relationship with Hina mattered more to
I
him
mean, it
than
happens
like any kind of
from
lust
time
or
to
sexual
time.
relationship.
But the thing is, yeah, I mean, you could argue that, but like, it's not very anime. You know, it's not very
Well, the thing is,
cash
if
money.
we've talked about the other shows that what's his name,
Well,
June
like that's
whatever.
why like
Yeah.
these
Like
endings are
all
kind
those
of
shows, like
depressing.
all three of those shows hit from like by the ending of it, they hit on like themes that don't go off in the direction of a normal anime, especially in an anime of a genre that you think the show is part of.
Yeah,
So
and that's kind of the whole point.
Charlotte's
So
Charlotte's ending where you ends up losing all of his memories of who Tomari was, and basically being somewhat handicapped for the rest of his life, but Tomari still wanting to be with him is kind of similar to Yoda's relationship with Hina by the end, except he like where you was the main character and Hina. Actually, I guess Hina is still I consider the main character. So it kind of very similar ending to Charlotte, and then in Angel Beats where You had like the main character. I can't remember the main character from Angel Beats anymore, but him and Angel, like, despite the fact that Angel, he knew that like his feelings for Angel, uh, was what she needed to hear to move on, so that they were never going to be together. It was the fact that he was able to even have those feelings that made um
Yeah.
gave him some kind of
Should
resolution,
should we like
and Angel
spoil
Beats.
other anime in these podcasts? Hmm.
Well, we've spoiled these other anime in previous podcasts,
Well,
so
well, I mean, but the thing is, someone might just watch this episode. They might not have seen our other ones.
well,
I just okay.
I think you should put a
Listen,
disclaimer at the start of this when it goes
we're
on, like saying,
we're spoiling
"Please,"
every anime that we've covered
like,
so far. So like, if you
no,
haven't
no.
watched the end,
The thing is, I think since this was the last show the last show we covered from this guy, it's good to analyze it from like the
yeah,
perspective of
yeah.
people who've seen those other shows and draw comparisons. Because you were saying that this isn't like how you expected anime to end, as far as like the sexual tension or whatever between the characters, but none of his other shows were either. They
Well,
all drew on
yeah,
something a little bit deeper.
yeah.
So it like you can't really go into any of his shows expecting the type of stuff that you would see in a typical anime. This is not a light novel adaptation. This is not your typical harem. This is not
This is
a
straight
romance comedy.
OVA.
This is these like all three anime, Charlotte, Angel Beats, and the Day I Became a God. They're anime that like can tell like a lighthearted story, can have fun and interesting characters, but can explore deeper themes with like a little bit more nuance than a typical anime could.
Yeah, which I appreciate the fact that a lot of anime fans apparently not so much. Apparently, there's a whole hate committee behind it, which very surprising to me. I mean, overall, I mean, which I think, I mean, we've been running a long time. I guess my best moment, though, I think overall the entire show, that's a tough one. Like, what was your favorite moment? Let me think. Do you have one off the top of your head?
My favorite moment had to be that moment at the end where Hina remembered who he was and just kept saying his name. Like, it was the most emotional moment for the show for me, and it's the moment that stuck out with me more than any other moment in the show.
Yeah. I think that moment was pretty good. I also would say I really enjoyed because I like the video game subplot. I enjoyed the moment where he stayed up all night to level up the characters for her. I thought that was very cool and that she like got to experience that he did that because I think ultimately that's probably what really helped her a lot. So that was a cool moment. Trying to think other cool moments. Man, I'm really trying to run through the episodes. A lot of them just kind of have one shot stories. It's really just like that style, slice of lifestyle, where it's just like, you know, there's a little plot that happens every episode. And I guess the episode with what's her name, Izanami and her dad. I guess that's probably my favorite, just standalone plotline episode. I guess
Yeah, that was a really
not
good
counting like the
episode.
overall like plot. It's like the my favorite one off plot. I guess.
Yeah, because all the other like standalone plots were kind of weak in comparison. The
Yeah.
plot with Asura, like you get all of that development over the course of a single motorcycle ride, and I was like, come
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah, and then yeah,
uh,
so I guess that was my favorite moment, and like I guess the best aspect about the show, like all of his shows, I do like the narrative of the way he tells his stories. I do like that it is different and there shows that you can actually talk about deeper meanings behind things. I think every one of these shows we covered, we've had like a conversation that's about something like deeper than the surface level of the show. And I think that's cool that we're able to do that, and it actually makes you questions like the endings of all the shows kind of make you think what will happen next to everyone. And I do like how everything was left off. I don't expect there to be ever be like a sequel of any kind, but um, yeah,
and in a way, that's a good thing. I kind of don't want a sequel.
Well,
because
all of his shows are
this
kind of
show
like
is
that. All of his shows kind of end in one season where like they don't really even have the possibility to continue. And I mean, not easily at least. You'd kind of have to basically do all new cast and retcon things to get it to work. So, but I like it, and I like what he does, and I hope he keeps doing it. So
yeah,
fuck
because
everyone
like
who's a hater.
each of his shows, with the exception of Angel Beats, which at some point maybe in the future I would maybe like to go back and just re-explore Angel Beats, because I think Angel Beats is a show that you could get a lot more out of your
Maybe
second or third
I
time
would
watching it.
like to play the visual novel. Maybe if we get a
Yeah,
hold of it, that could be fun. Maybe we could get
it
a
ends on a
waifu's
new
end.
beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it ends on a new beginning where, like, the ending is not the end of the story, but it's the beginning of another story. So that story, like, it could be whatever you think those characters are gonna make of it. So it just allows you to continue to think more about the possibilities of what could happen at the end of the show, rather than. And I think for different people, depending on how they interpret the characters, like that new story is gonna go in completely different directions. And
yeah.
that's the fun, and also like a lot of the enjoyment of the experiences you get out of those shows is just that your interpretation of how these events and these character how these events affected these characters, and where you think they should go from there, is left up to you. um
And I
so
I guess with that, I mean, overall, my final thoughts on the show. It is a show that I hate not I would definitely recommend it, but after seeing so much negativity, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't recommend this to every person that watches anime like I thought of with the other shows. Just because now that I really think about it, an average anime fan might not enjoy this as much as we did because some people really go into these shows. I don't know what they're expecting. Like so many comments are like after episode 9, after episode 10, I'm completely checked out. I don't give a fuck. It was good up till that point. The ending, they especially when I asked the Charlotte Reddit, they said the ending didn't compare to Charlotte, which I think they're kind of on the same level for me. And I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, but I think overall it's a show I still would recommend for most people that like something interesting that makes you think, and it has some good aspects in most things. I don't think there was anything that was blatantly terrible. There's some confusing things like that we talked about earlier with like the overall plot and like the limitations of the power and everything like that, but I think it still tells a story that was worth watching. And the fact that they were able to do an anime like this in like 12 episodes, I've seen anime like this that were like, 24 or 50 episodes that basically did the same amount of like stuff in it. So I think, yeah, with that, it's really awesome. What were your final thoughts, Noob?
My final thoughts are pretty much the same as yours. It's an anime I would definitely recommend, but it's also an anime that I can acknowledge that not your average anime watcher is probably going to like. It has a lot of things in the show to like for your average anime fan, but it's a show that kind of like stands on its own. I couldn't really even classify it into a genre. I think it's the same thing with his other shows. Either it's like hard to pinpoint a genre this falls into, because the minute you try to put it into a genre, it changes into something else.
Yeah.
So I definitely do recommend watching this, but go into this with an open mind, and I think you're going to find a lot to love here. That's going to be my final thoughts on the show.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. My anime list, by the way, says it's drama fantasy, which I guess is true. I guess
Yeah.
all three of these are kind of dramas, which I mean, they're a type of drama. So, which I like drama animes. I like drama fiction. So that's why I think I enjoy these more than people. I guess if you really just don't like drama anime, then don't fucking watch these. Like I think everyone who gave this a 1 out of 10 was wanting it to be like a
Harem.
slice of life comedy harem, but this is a
Yeah.
drama. Like it's going to
They're
have
like, "We
drama.
want more waifus," and or like maybe they were watching Charlotte's like, how come a show with superpowers doesn't have enough fight scenes? Or
Yeah, if
watching
you
Angel Beats is like, when do they slay God?
yeah, so and if you're listening to this, if you want to get a good laugh, go ahead and go to my anime list and read some of these dudes' reviews that gave it a 1 out of 10. One guy gave it a 1 out of 10, and I looked at what his number one anime is, and it was Full Metal Alchemist, which
Oh,
is a
boy.
good
I mean,
anime. But I
yeah,
mean,
it's a
if
great
that's your
anime,
favorite
but
anime, then I mean, you gave this a 1 out of 10.
like, what did he say? Did he show
Uh,
what he said about it or anything?
it did. I just don't want to get into it on stream. We'll go over it
Uh,
off stream. And like I said, if anyone's listening wants to read those, I recommend it just to see like the type of stuff these people were saying that gave it a 1 out of 10. And with that said, what are you feeling for our my anime list rating on this? Um,
I really love the show. I think it did a lot of things well, but it did has some like stuff that I felt like they could have did more on, especially like the standalone character arcs and stuff.
well,
So I'd be willing to go with like maybe an 8 personally.
we did give Angel Beats and Charlotte also an 8,
Yeah, I would say it's on the level of those two.
and I would agree. Now, I still think I like those two better. But
I mean,
not
yeah,
but not
I will
by
say this much. Out of
much.
those 3 shows, I would say Angel Beats was probably my favorite of all 3.
Yeah. I
And
think
then
it
I
goes
would say
Angel
this
Beats,
show
Charlotte,
kinda
this
ties
one.
with Charlotte for me.
And this show was also 1 episode shorter than those. Those were 13 episodes. This one was 12, so
I thought this was also 13.
was it? No, I'm pretty sure it
No.
was 12.
I mean, the anime wiki, says it was 13 episodes.
Was it 13? I thought it was 12. Maybe I'm
No, no,
wrong.
no, you're right, you're right, it was 12, but
Okay,
it says 13 episodes, but it only lists 12 episodes
that could be a
on the
typo. I'm
yeah.
pretty sure, like, unless there's like an OVA that I missed or something.
I'm pretty sure there
Um,
wasn't an OVA that you missed considering this anime
yeah,
literally
it
just
just came
premiered
out.
last season.
Yeah, it just
So
came out. So, I mean, it's
that
possible,
would have
but
been the fastest turnaround for an OVA ever.
but yeah, so I mean, it was 1 episode shorter, and like I don't know if they could have gotten an. I just liked it. I think
Yeah.
8 is fair. I'll agree with an 8.
I
I
mean,
don't.
it kinda ties with Charlotte for me, especially considering they had, like, very similar endings and stuff. Angel Beats, for me, just hit, like, a whole 'nother emotional chord entirely.
Well,
So,
yeah, Angel Beats is like
I feel like
really
Angel
deep.
Beats should go up a point, but
I know. We haven't given anything a 9 except Spirited Away on. We had like a special Spirited Away movie edition that's only on YouTube. We gave that one a 9. So yeah, I mean,
yeah,
um, maybe we'll have like a special where we re-go through the list. I don't know. We'll talk
yeah.
about that later. But I think for now we're gonna end it. So the day I became God, we're gonna give it a 8 out of 10. We both give it a recommend. I'm glad that we didn't have a well, we did have an argument this episode,
Yeah.
but it wasn't about how good the
It
anime
wasn't about
was.
the good
And
yeah.
I
I
don't
guess
think I insulted the anime fans or the weebs as much. I think I just insulted like handicapped people. Which, if there's anyone that's handicapped that's listening to this, I promise I really don't hate you, and I think you should live. And if you have family like that, I really, I just for me personally, I can't blame someone and I can't hate them, and that was my point of the whole thing. So with that said,
yeah.
do you have anything else to say? Any comments, opinions? You gonna
No,
tell
I guess
them?
I'll go into what we're gonna be
Yeah.
covering in the next podcast, which is another favorite anime of mine, My Second Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom.
Which I
So
have
see you in the next one.
no idea about. So with that, noob solo, we're all signing out. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Ciao.